Will it be a clean sweep? The Leafs are up 3-0 as the Battle of Ontario continues this weekend. We're going to hear from the team and fans the day after another exciting overtime victory.
70% off for a piece of history, the liquidation sales at the last Hudson Bay stores. That's happening now. CP24's Beatrice Baseman is going to guide you through the deals.
And a mistrial in the sexual assault case against 5 former World Junior hockey players. So what happens next? We're going to take a look at that.
At 72 hours before Canadians decide the next prime minister, we have continuing coverage of the federal election campaign heading into the final weekend before Election Day.
You're watching Live at 5.
Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latafat. Thanks for joining us and welcome to Live at 5. Liquidation sales are underway at all Hudson's Bay stores. This after the company's financial advisor said there is a low probability that Canada's oldest retailer will find a buyer for its remaining locations.
Let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Baseman, who's outside of the flagship location at Queen and Yonge. Beatrice.
Bakari, Lena, it's a historic day. I mean, there's people who have been shopping at Hudson's Bay for generations. You can get everything in this store, from cookware to appliances and furniture and clothing and cosmetics. And now most of it is on sale. Here's the signage, 40 to 70% off, lowest ticketed prices. Not on everything, but on lots of things. And a lot of the jewelry is actually 70% off as well. It is extremely busy at this Hudson's Bay location. We're right near the Eaton Center. I've been in a few Hudson's Bays since, the situation started to become clearer and the company started to apply for creditor protection, and they've not nearly been as busy as this one is today. Here's some reaction from shoppers.
Well, I was opportunistic. A few things I was looking for, and frankly, looked around and thought, where were all these people over the last 5 years? Because I work above the building.
Everybody's buying. Sad to see them go because, they've been around so long. And I work in the building, so I guess times are different now.
Yeah.
I got 2 belts, actually. My wife is still inside shopping.
Some of the experts have been critical of Hudson's Bay Company for not adjusting to the times, for not boosting their online presence, to try to innovate and maneuver and change the way they've done business. Again, this is a company that's been around for 355 years. So certainly evolution is something that didn't happen quite as quickly. The application for creditor protection happened after the COVID-19 pandemic and the financial challenges that came with it. Now the trade war with the U.S. and the fact that downtown just hasn't been as busy as it was prior to the pandemic, all of those proving to be some really, really big challenges. And so today, the liquidation sales began across the country, 6 final stores. This one here at the Eaton Center, Yorkdale, and Hillcrest Mall in the GTA, 3 others across the country as the days of Hudson's Bay are numbered. Those traditional Hudson's Bay stripes items, the gloves, the hats, the blankets, the bedding, they're a hot commodity right now, and they're really, really hard to find already. But certainly an end of an era and a piece of nostalgia of Canadian history, Canadiana, going down with Hudson's Bay Company.
Okay, so Beatrice, these are the deals to be had in the last days of Hudson's Bay, but what about the sister company, Saks?
Yeah, that one's going too, Bakari. I actually just walked into the Saks Fifth Avenue off my lunch break, and it's busy there too. A lot of the designer items at Saks are on sale. There's some Givenchy bags happening on sale for 30% off. Christian Louboutins on sale, 30% off. That just doesn't typically happen. It is going under, and employees for both companies, Hudson's Bay, the parent company, and Six, also losing their jobs, unfortunately. Back to you.
All right. Beatrice Baseman reporting live tonight on Queen Street. Thanks so much for this, Beatrice. Well, another overtime victory for the Leafs, and they are now just 1 win away from the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
The Canadian Tire Center's rocking. Matthews wins the draw. Benoit scores!
All right, Simone Benoit scoring the winning goal in OT to lift the Leafs to a 3-2 victory over the Senators last night. They now lead the series 3-0. And this is the first time that the Leafs have been up 3-0 in a playoff series since 2001. That's when they went on to sweep the Senators. And the NHL has fined the Ottawa Senators over an incident during the warm-ups before last night's game. The Senators' Nick Cousins appeared to shoot a couple of pucks in the direction of Leafs goalie Anthony Stolarz. This is during the warm-ups. Well, the league has fined the Senators $25,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct, and Cousins has been fined just under $2,100 also for unsportsmanlike conduct.
There's lots of little things that both teams are trying to do, and often with these types of playoff games that are very competitive, it comes down to just details, and obviously both teams are putting a lot of emphasis on those little areas, and so for us it's just about continuing with the program here, playing within structure, and again just trying to build our game, and we expect it just to get more and more competitive.
We'll get the hardest game tomorrow. I mean, that's always been the way. And like I said, instead of, we got to focus on the process going into the game of what we need to do shift to shift. Stay patient with our game, and it's, we got to be more disciplined in the game. I'll say that right now. We took too many penalties last game.
Well, Leaf fans, they are still riding high after the team's latest win last night. And CP24's Sija Liu has been chatting with those fans. She joins us live with more. Sija, it's a good week to be a Toronto Maple Leaf fan.
Absolutely, Nina Bakari. I was at Maple Leaf Square last night, and fans were ecstatic when Simon Benoit scored that overtime goal to give the Toronto the 3-0 lead over the series. They were chanting, "Get the brooms out. This is going to be a clean sweep of Ottawa." And for more fan reaction, I'm joined by Lisa and Joan. They've been shopping in here today, making sure they get all their Leafs gear for Game 4. Lisa, you were telling me you've been a Leafs fan since you were 10 years old.
Since I was 10 years old.
Yeah, so what would a win on Saturday mean for you?
It would be awesome because the Leafs haven't won the Stanley Cup in like 57 years. So if they don't win it this year, it would be 58. So definitely that they deserve a cup this year.
Hey, who's counting, right? But if they win on Saturday, how would you celebrate? I know you bought some things, a #1 Leafs fan.
I brought my Toronto Maple Leaf purse. I bought this when I went to Sports Check at Collington. I bought this today at the Leaf shop. A Toronto Maple Leaf finger. And I have a Tavares t-shirt jersey.
You have a different Leafs gear for every single game. What was your reaction last night when Simon Benoit scored that overtime goal, a second overtime win in the Battle of Hudson?
My sister said, "You're going to wake up the neighbors." As soon as he scored the goal, I screamed, and I said, "Yeah," and I go out my front door. The Leafs won. People were up the street, and they said, "Yeah," and you're going to wake up the whole neighborhood. So everybody knew that the Leafs won last night, all my neighbors and everything.
And quick question, what is your prediction for this series?
I hope that they're going to win tomorrow night and sweep it. And then for the next series, I'm hoping that they take it in 5.
We'll see. Thanks so much. We appreciate your time today. So Leafs fan, they are riding high. Game 4 will be on Saturday, still in Ottawa at the Canadian Tire Centre, but Maple Leaf Square will be open for fans to enjoy. As always, you just need to log in onto the Maple Leafs app at 1 p.m. to snatch your tickets. First come, first serve. But fans are really hoping, Lena Bakari, that this is going to be a clean sweep and they get it done on Saturday.
Yeah, CJ, where's your broom?
I'll have to find one, but hey, we have lots of Leafs gear here. We'll find maybe some stuffed animals. I'll come back with something in the next half an hour.
Gear. That's good enough. Thanks, Sija.
Thanks, Sija. All right, let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjunct and CIA Ambois. Adj, good evening. Okay, we'll check back in a little bit later for an update on traffic. Well, a $50,000 reward is being offered for information leading to the arrest of one of Canada's most wanted.
A Canada-wide warrant has been issued for 32-year-old Dharam Dhaliawal. He is wanted for first-degree murder in the killing of 21-year-old Pavanpreet Kaur. She was gunned down at a gas station at Credit View and Britannia in December 2022. If you spot Dhaliawal, police are advising that you don't approach him as he may be armed and dangerous. Instead, the advice is to just call 911, Peel Police, or Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous.
A new jury has been selected in the sexual assault case of 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey Team. This is after an Ontario judge declared a mistrial just days into the proceedings.
Let's bring in CP24's Melissa Duggan, who's been following this development very closely. Melissa.
Yeah, Lean and Bakari, sometimes in court proceedings, they could go real slow. Not the case today in London, Ontario. Things started off with the judge in the case declaring a mistrial, telling the original jury they were free to go, thanking them for their attention. And then a new jury was selected. That process carried out today. Those jurors have been picked and a new trial date has been set. We don't know why this mistrial was decided by the judge today. We do know that this trial did kick off earlier this week, though. The accused, Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Formenton, Dillon Dube, Cal Foote, all charged in this sexual assault case. All of them have pleaded not guilty to the alleged incidents that happened in the London, Ontario hotel room in 2018. We were talking with criminal defense lawyer Alison Craig today about some of the factors that could be in play when a judge declares a mistrial. Have a listen.
And if ever there is any concern that a jury has been prejudiced some way, whether it's by hearing something or seeing something or learning something that they shouldn't have, you always want to err on the side of caution to protect the rights of all parties to a fair trial, be it the defense or the Crown.
As for the new jury, this is the information we're getting so far from our friends at CTV News. A 14-person jury has been selected, 9 women, 5 men on this. We're also hearing from the judge when it comes to when things will begin again. So Monday, that is when the new trial will pick up. It's going to be a short day, she says, though, because, of course, the federal election is being held that day, giving everyone a chance to vote. The trial is expected to stretch for about 8 weeks. Lena Bakari, back to you.
All right, Melissa, thanks so much for this. Time now is 5:12, sitting at about 17 degrees in the city. Let's check back in with our Adjoa and Cia Bois for this latest drive. Busy out there, Ad. You always say I'm psychic.
Yeah, you are. You know, you always know where it is busy, but at least no problems anymore. We had an issue that I just watched clear, Alina. It was on the westbound lanes of the Gardiner. It was happening right through York Bay Yonge. It was a collision. Right lane was blocked. The problems there at least have cleared the scene, but take a look at the drive. Not moving as you exit the downtown core. Headed towards the Don Valley Parkway. Find it busy going as you make your way from Bayview Bloor up to the 401. And once you're on the 401, still busy pockets across the top of the city, slowly starting to get a little bit better. And further east, looking at delays as you head in towards Durham. On city streets in Scarborough, just one collision of note. It's blocking lanes on Progress and Markham Road. Send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
It's 5:13, 18 degrees. This is Live at 5.
Canadians head to the polls on Monday. Really, this is the final stretch. And coming up after the break, we are going to sit down with our federal election political panel to pick their brains. Stay with us for that conversation. Welcome back to Live at 5. This is really it. We are now heading into the final weekend of this election campaign. And tonight we are sitting down with 3 political insiders who have a lot to say about this race. They've also been watching it very closely. We're joined live in studio by Sharon Kaur. She's a Liberal strategist. Jamie Ellerton is a Conservative strategist, and we're also joined live by Kim Wright, who is an NDP insider. So good to sit down with you and pick your brains about what is going on. Let's get right to it. What is this election about? Is it about Donald Trump? Is it about change? Is it about something else? Sharon, I'll begin with you.
100% about change and Donald Trump. It's change in the Liberal Party. We've got a new leader. But again, a lot of it has to do with Donald Trump. Everything that people are going to face, affordability, housing, anything and everything is going to be impacted by what Donald Trump is doing. So this is 100% a Donald Trump campaign.
Jamie, what's this election about?
This is about change. Just changing the face on the Liberal Party while keeping the rest of the Liberal team and Liberal policies means we're going to continue to take the country in the wrong direction. And so I think Pierre Poilievre has been quite clear throughout this campaign. He's offering real change and has really put a lot of policy and substance behind that.
Kim?
For New Democrats, it's about how do you make sure that Canadians are protected, regardless of what the mango monster does to the south. Really, it is about what happens here in Canada. Can dental care be expanded? Can pharmacare? childcare program that had been promised for decades by Liberals and didn't happen under New Democrats, with New Democrats and in the House of Commons in large numbers. We made that happen. Protection of workers, same thing, making sure that people are taken care of. It's great to talk about the mango monster or change and whatever makeover people want to give, but ultimately Canadians have to be protected.
Jamie, I want to talk more about Ontario because, look, we know that this election could be won and lost in a province like this. So when you have a premier as popular as Doug Ford come out and distance himself from Pierre Poilievre and his federal cousins, and even say things like, sometimes the truth hurts, how much does that damage the Conservative campaign? What does it do?
Well, it's definitely a distraction. Every time you have a leader having to talk about more punditry style feedback and internal party fighting, it's something he's not talking about, the message of change and delivering what he would rather do in terms of where the country's going. So it's definitely not been helpful. But I think the Conservative campaign has just kind of, frankly, talked past that. I think a lot of people will debate media strategy after this is all said and done. If we have some surprise results on Monday and Conservatives outperform where the polls are at, you're going to hear a lot of people taking a victory lap. And otherwise, if they don't, you'll hear them talking about perhaps some misguided approaches.
Kim, Ontarians might be reading into the Premier's comments or lack thereof. What do you make of this?
Look, the internal squabbles of the Conservative Party, while wildly entertaining, don't matter to voters. You need to get on those doorsteps, get out your vote. And for New Democrats, fine, squabble all you want, but we want to get things done. So you saw Jagmeet in Toronto, in Hamilton, in Windsor. Yesterday, he was at the site of the Winnipeg general strike in Winnipeg and talking about what does democracy mean? What does politics actually mean on the ground for Canadians? That's what's really important as people are going to cast those ballots.
Sharon, do you have any thoughts?
Hey, I'm all here for Doug Ford wanting to come out and help us out. He's a popular premier, and he's worked really well with the feds in terms of what he's been doing. He's also been a voice right at the front end of what's happening in the U.S. So it is entertaining to see what's happening amongst the Conservative parties. But you know what? This happens amongst parties all the time. I think the focus for everyone is to continue to pull their vote, continue to ID their voters, and get out there and hustle. So Monday is going to be an interesting day.
It sure is. Look, it's been fascinating to watch the storylines come out of the public opinion polls. And when Mark Carney entered this race, there was a lot of traction there. He certainly got a big boost, but this race seems to have tightened. I want to ask all of you what you think has happened. Sharon.
Well, I'm going to say I think that Mark Carney, as someone who is not a retail politician by nature, he is a different person than Justin Trudeau. And as much as the Conservatives have wanted to campaign against Justin Trudeau, he's not him. And for Mark, he's kind of this fresh face, but he's also this serious face in terms of someone who can deal with Donald Trump. And again, he has been on the world stage. He's managed crises before, and people see him as someone serious. They want someone who can actually temper things down with the U.S., and that's why we're seeing more favor towards him. We're hearing that at the door as well. And he's taking the party back into the center where it belongs to be.
Jamie?
I think a couple things. One, you definitely had a popular kind of first impression from Mark Carney, and the Trump stuff at the end of March was sucking up a lot more oxygen to the conversation. As that's faded and people have been reminded of Liberal policies in kind of the past 10 years, I think that desire to change number has started to tick back up. And I think when you look at what Pierre Poilievre has been advancing, he continues to remind people of it's effectively the same Liberal team. And if you want real change, you have to vote for it. And we'll see if those numbers continue to trend in Conservative direction leading into Monday.
Kim, I want to ask you about Mark Carney, but I have to talk to you about Jagmeet Singh, because that's been so interesting.
I'm a big fan.
I didn't know that. No, just kidding. Well, what do you make of where the party is standing right now? And if the NDP does terribly on election night, what do you think that's going to mean for Mr. Singh's political future?
Look, my entire political life, people have been trying to write the obituary of the New Democrats. We're government in 2 provinces, in Manitoba and British Columbia. We're official opposition in 4 others. We've got lots of ground game and lots of really interesting candidates who are out there knocking on doors and pulling in that vote. And I'm actually excited about where that message is going and how it's resonating. I know it always is surprising to people that, look, in the Ontario election, Bonnie Crombie had 30% of the popular vote and is still walking around Queen's Park with a staff badge. So anything can happen come election day. In terms of Mr. Carney, people saw his platform last week that was released. It had $28 billion in unspecified cuts. Frankly, that's banker speak for a whole bunch of things that are going to get whacked and hacked in Ottawa. And those are usually situations where people, poorer people, need governments to step up the most. And those are the expedient things for Liberals and Conservatives to cut quickly.
All right, I've got to throw to break, but I want to thank you all for your thoughts. We are going to continue our conversation with Sharon Core, Jamie Ellerton, and Kim Wright at 5:30. We're going to talk more about the close races to watch for in the GTA. You're watching Live at 5. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. More than 1,000 communities across the city are taking part in the annual spring cleanup beginning today.
It's the 20th Clean Toronto Together campaign set to run through Sunday. It invites community members and groups to volunteer and collect litter in parks, ravines, and other natural spaces like beaches. It is Canada's largest municipal spring cleanup, and Mayor Olivia Chow says that this year's cleanup was a success even before it started.
Over the last 4 weeks, city staff have deployed litter vacuums, sweepers, power washer, leaf blowers, and the machines you see beside me. So far, in just a handful of weeks since the winter thaw, the city has picked up nearly 10,000 tons of debris. That's a lot.
And over the next few days, families, individuals, and businesses are encouraged to spend 20 minutes picking up litter in a local park, beach, ravine, or other natural space.
Well, there's going to be a partial closure on Line 2 for TTC riders to be aware of this weekend.
Yeah, there will be no service between Kipling and Jane stations on Saturday and Sunday. This is because of track work. Shuttle buses will be running instead. The TTC says staff will be available to assist customers, and regular subway service is set to resume at 6 o'clock on Monday morning.
And a heads up for GO Transit riders, there will be disruptions on the Barrie line this weekend. Metrolink says that there will be no GO train service on the line Saturday and Sunday to accommodate critical track work. GO buses will replace trains at all stations except for Downsview and Union. Metrolink says that the track work may lead to some Barrie line trips departing at different times Monday and Tuesday as well. There also will not be any train service on the line the following weekend either.
It is now 5:28, 18 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And the Leafs have put the Sens on the brink of elimination. We're going to have reaction to last night's OT victory coming up. Will it be a clean sweep? The Leafs are up 3-0 as the Battle of Ontario continues this weekend. We're going to hear from the team and fans the day after another exciting OT victory.
70% off, a piece of history. The liquidation sales at the last Hudson's Bay stores is happening now, and our Beatrice Faisman is guiding you through the deals and the reaction.
It is a mistrial in the sexual assault case against 5 former World Junior hockey players. So what happens next? We answered that coming up.
And 72 hours before Canadians decide the next prime minister, we have continuing coverage of the federal election campaign heading into the final weekend before the big day.
This is Live at 5.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Ladifat.
I'm Bakari Savage. Let's get to it. Another OT victory for the Leafs. And now they are just one win away from the next round of the Stanley Cup playoffs.
The Canadian Tire Center's rocking. Matthews wins the draw. Benoit scores!
Simone Benoit scoring the winning goal in overtime to lift the Leafs to a 3-2 victory over the Sens last night. They now lead the series 3-0. This is the first time the team has been up 3-0 in a playoff series since 2001 when they went on to sweep Ottawa.
Well, the NHL has fined the Ottawa Senators over an incident during the warm-ups. This is before last night's game. The Senators' Nick Cousins appeared to shoot a couple of pucks in the direction of Leafs goalie Anthony Stolarz. This is during the warm-ups. And the league has fined the Senators $25,000 for unsportsmanlike conduct. Cousins has been fined just under $2,100 also for unsportsmanlike conduct.
All we can do is, understand what you need to do every shift as a player. And, the battling and the competitiveness that you need and the puck play, the smart puck play, and all those types of things. That's the process that you need to focus on. The killer instinct will take care of itself. You do things right. But it's going to boil down to competitiveness and battles. It really is.
As a group, it's always a work in progress. I think, that last game is always the most difficult, and you expect it to be the most competitive. And so for us, we're not getting carried away with anything. We're just focusing again on building our game and, growing and, playing within structure and, becoming more comfortable and increasing the execution. And so as we go here, we'll look to improve and,
As a 5-man unit on the ice, in all 3 zones, working back towards the D zone, as well as getting up into the offensive zone. Everybody's been doing a fantastic job there. Last night in the second and third, I thought our breakouts were a lot better, and the forwards are doing a great job, supporting the puck as we were coming out of the zone. So we want to continue to do that for sure.
And Leafs fans are still riding high after the team's latest win last night.
CP24 CJ Lou has been talking with some of the faithful, joining us live with more. A lot of people are getting even more swag this time around, CJ.
Yeah, they're getting foam fingers, hats, everything you need to cheer on the Leafs. But look what I have. This is the stick that belongs to the player that shot the winning goal last night. Check it out. It's Simon Benoit. He sent it here just for us here on CP24. Hey, it's not a broom, but I think you can still do some sweeping with this stick, don't you think? We're getting a reaction from fans today after that amazing win by the Leafs that put them up 3-0 in the Battle of Ontario. We have Mike joining us. Mike, you have been a lifelong Leafs fan.
Ever since I was a boy.
Yeah. What does it feel watching them this playoff this time around, up 3-0 now?
Yeah, the energy up from the Leafs is just unbelievable right now. I think they're going all the way this year.
What do you think is so different about the Leafs this year?
Just their energy, their drive to win. Yeah.
And if they win this round against the Senators, are you hoping they go up against the Panthers or the Lightning? What do you think is going to happen with that?
It's not if they win. They're going to win 4 straight, I believe. I think either Tampa or Florida, I think they'll take either one of them out. I think it'll be a little bit harder than the Sens, but they'll take either one out.
And how would you celebrate if the Leafs did win, if they win this series and the next round and possibly even further?
Man, we'll celebrate hard. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Any words of encouragement you would like to give the boys?
Go Leafs, go.
Leafs go. Hey, we've been hearing that chant all night long at Maple Leaf Square yesterday, but the game will be on Saturday and fans can join in on the action again here at Maple Leaf Square. Back to you.
Okay, CP24, CJ. Okay, CJ, I do have to ask, is that really Benoit's stick?
It is. It's a practice stick. So this probably isn't the one that he used yesterday unless he, expedited shipping to us, but he has touched the stick, so it is lucky.
That's pretty special.
Yeah, CP24, CJ Lou. Thanks, CJ. Okay, right now, let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa and Cia Bois. Good evening, Adj.
Oh, good evening, Bakari. If you're looking to start the weekend right, it's going to take you a while to get to wherever you're headed, especially if your commute is the Don Valley Parkway, making your way north and actually south. It's really busy in either direction between Bayview Bloor and the 401. Traveling towards the 401, it remains busy, but improving slowly as you head across the top of the city. And the northbound 427, MTO was reporting problems that were happening in the Express just through Dundas. Looks like they cleared. Problems that haven't cleared, but I just can't see them. It's outside of camera view on the eastbound lanes of the 407. This is just as you make around the approach to Kiel. Multi-vehicle collision in the 3 right lanes. I'll send it back to you, Lena and Bakari.
Adjoa, thanks so much. A new jury has now been selected in the sexual assault case of 5 former members of Canada's World Junior Hockey team. This after an Ontario judge declared a mistrial just days into proceedings.
Okay, for more on this, we go to the newsroom. This is where we find CP24's Melissa Duggan to help understand what's going on and what is next.
Well, the message from the judge today to the courtroom is we will start fresh on Monday morning. So a whole new trial going to be kicking off on Monday after this week's trial was cut short. The judge declaring a mistrial. She turned to the original jury and said Thank you for your attention, but now you can go. It's not clear why a mistrial was declared in this case. A publication ban has been put on those reasons. But we've been talking with different legal experts today about this, and they're pointing to, even if there is just an appearance of unfairness, this is what the judge needs to do. Those charged in this case, Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Formenton, Dillon Dube, and Cal Foote, charged in the sexual assault case, all have pleaded not guilty related to alleged incidents that happened inside a hotel room in London, Ontario back in 2018. We were talking with criminal defense lawyer Kim Schofield today, and she says basically declaring a mistrial like this is basically just a bump in the road. Have a listen.
So if the Crown has a concern, if the defense has a concern that something has happened that could taint or prejudice the jury, then they're duty bound to bring it up. And then it's up to the judge to consider how serious that was. Now, if it is very far along in the trial, judges would be less likely to grant a mistrial because it would derail this whole process and you'd have to set a new date. If, however, it's borderline and it's very early in the trial, the judge, out of the abundance of caution, may grant a mistrial where one otherwise wouldn't be granted.
And of course, we were just a couple of days into this trial. So looking ahead to Monday, a new jury selected today, 14 members strong, 9 women, 5 men a part of that. And the judge also saying, Bakari and Lena, that Monday is going to be a short day. Of course, that is the day of the federal election. She wants to give everybody involved a chance to vote. Back to you.
Okay, live from the newsroom, CP24's Melissa Doug and Melissa, thank you.
Thanks.
And with the election just days away, what is the mood of voters who are about to make an important decision?
CTV's Siobhan Morris has been out talking to people. She joins us live to share what she's been hearing. Siobhan.
Well, this is certainly the most engaged I think you've seen a lot of voters in a federal election in a very long time, mostly because of the threats we've been seeing south of the border from Donald Trump with talk of annexation and retaliatory or reciprocal tariffs for all the U.S.'s trading partners. We are along Front Street, partially because you get people from all over the country, really, coming to this section of Toronto. And we did hear a couple different things. We did talk to one man who said that really his mind has been changed. His support for the Liberal Party reinforced after Justin Trudeau's departure. He thought it was cool, he said, to see Trudeau step down. He feels confident that Canada would be in good hands under Mark Carney. He's worried about some of the alternatives. The guy standing right next to him, his friend, he says he hasn't been so tuned into the election, but he has been having conversations with his family and friends. He's been listening to what they're having to say. And based on those conversations, he's now leaning towards voting Conservative. He lives in an Indigenous community in eastern Quebec, and he says for him, the things that are really top of mind are wages, the cost of living, and housing. He says in Indigenous communities in particular, those issues are really, really vital. We also spent some time today in the riding of Toronto-St. Paul's. This is a really interesting one to watch on Monday night because this really was the canary in the coal mine, the beginning of Justin Trudeau's end to his time in the Prime Minister's office. This was a riding that had been Liberal for decades, and then it flipped Conservative by a margin of just 600 votes. And that we are hearing now from people that they do hope that it flips back Liberal again, because they say that really was a fact. At the head of the party, even though the local candidates are the same. There are, of course, some people hoping that Pierre Poilievre and his Conservative candidate in that riding will continue to hang on. We heard some issues really based around trust, focusing on the little people, the needs of regular people, and maintaining people's rights. Lena and Bakari.
All right, Siobhan Morris out talking to voters ahead of Monday's election. Thanks so much, Siobhan. Really appreciate it. It's now 5:41, 18 degrees, and you're watching Live at 5.
Well, coming up, we're going to have more on our election coverage as Lena hosts our strategic exclusive panel. That's next.
Welcome back to Live at 5. We are now days away from Election Day, and our conversation continues this half hour with Sharon Corr, Liberal strategist, Jamie Ellerton, Conservative strategist, and Kim Wright, who is an NDP strategist. Good to be back with all of you and to get your thoughts. Let's talk about the public opinion polls. There are people out there who say they don't believe them. They think that Pierre Poilievre is going to win on Monday night. I want to hear from all of you, but Jamie, I'll begin with you on that front.
I think polling is a art and a bit of science. I think you see wide variance across the polls, but I do think, broadly speaking, they're pretty effective at capturing public opinion. Polls are backwards looking, so it's where people have been thinking. They're not predictive as to what the future is going to be, and so we'll see what the results ultimately are on Monday. I know when you talk to conservative campaigns across the country, they're getting ready for GOTV to get out the vote and continuing to door knock in tight polls where they're trying to persuade as many people as possible all the way through to the end.
Kim.
Yeah, it is that GOTV. It's that get out the vote. It's every one of those identified supporters, hopeful, getting them into the ballot box. Ideally, they would have already gotten in there in an advance poll, but there's lots of votes still to be cast. And, your vote actually does matter. We saw in the provincial election that on election night, one of the ridings was 4 votes. It went up to 10 on a recount. But imagine that, 10 votes. And if you think your vote doesn't count or you think somebody else's vote cancels yours out, please don't think that way. Democracy is too important to leave it to the people down the road that you don't particularly like.
Yeah, and you've all worked on campaigns, so you know the importance of getting up the vote, especially on a final weekend like this. Sharon, you're working on a campaign. How much do these final hours matter?
Well, they're really important because it's your last opportunity to identify voters, to remind voters. So there's different tactics you can take, whether it's actually knocking on doors, making phone calls, advertising. There's so many different factors. So it's important, but there's also a lot of prep that goes in this weekend to get everyone ready to pull the vote on Monday. People are not campaigning on Monday, they're pulling the vote. So they're getting out to all of their IDs. And IDing is a lot of work. It takes a ton of time, a ton of energy, and the majority of efforts. And the goal is on Election Day to pull everyone. But again, we saw record numbers for advance polls. In Carleton, in Pierre Poilievre's riding, I think it's about 43,000 people voted in advance polls, which is insane. That is a good thing because people are out voting. So regardless of which party you're going for, we saw really good numbers in advance polls. So
people are engaged for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I want to talk about Ontario again. We know that, it is a big prize in this election. I was listening to pollster Nick Nanos talk today about the 905, the crucial 905, and he pointed out that places like Mississauga, Brampton, and Oakville often tend to swing with whoever forms government. So when we look at the GTA and beyond here at home, what are you guys watching for? Kim?
There's a lot of different pockets of places. Again, voter turnout is going to be so critical and so crucial. And that is the one thing in public opinion polls. You can ask people if they're going to go vote, but everyone's going to say they are, like they floss, at the end of the day. You have to get out there and you have to make sure your ear is out there. There's a lot of stories that are going to be interesting on election night. I'm looking at, obviously, the Bramptons. Also, places like Ajax. You've got Toronto City Deputy Mayor Jen McKelvey versus Toronto radio reporter Greg Brady, both out in Ajax. So who knows? There's a lot of campaigning still left to happen, but I'm excited for Jigmeet's down in Windsor today, which is where I grew up, and there's some really great folks down there like Brian Massey, a longtime incumbent. So these rallies and vibe checks will also matter.
Okay, really quickly, I want to hear from the both of you about ridings to watch for in the GTA. Jamie.
On the GTA, I'll be probably most closely watching for my friend Karen Stintz in Eglinton Lawrence. And the rest of it, I think, in the 905 region. When you look at how the Conservative campaign has really targeted young men, these are people who typically have lower turnout and are less engaged, and that kind of fever excitement is really there amongst that demographic. If those people surprise in showing up for vote and tilt results this way, you might see some surprises on Monday night.
Eglinton Lawrence is one that a lot of us are watching carefully. St. Paul's is another one. But there's a lot of ridings that are outside in the GTA that, like Kim just mentioned, the one in Ajax, is an interesting one because you've got.
I'm going to be there on election night, by the way,
there you
covering
go.
that riding. It's
And
so interesting.
It's an interesting one. Greg Brady's a good friend. We've done radio together, and Jennifer McKelvey is a very popular name and face too. So
in Toronto,
in Toronto, yes. But yeah, I think all the GTA is going to be really interesting to see which ones flip and which ones don't.
I'm super excited for Parkdale High Park. Butila Karpachi, who's the former NDP MPP, has decided she was going to run federally. Tibetan, really fabulous woman, brought her newborn child into the legislature to talk about women's maternal health and postpartum depression and how we all need to be better about these things. Having these interesting stories and a cross-section of Canadians is really fascinating. So Parkdale High Park is my Toronto one to watch.
Well, to give her a bit of hope, I live in Parkdale. I can say the NDP is winning the sign war in Parkdale High Park.
All right, Jamie's letting you have that one. Kim Wright, Jamie Ellerton, and Sharon Court. So good to sit down with all of you. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Lena.
And have a great weekend. You are watching Live at 5. Much more to come right after this. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Liquidation sales are underway at all Hudson's Bay stores. This is after the company's financial advisor said that there's low probability that Canada's oldest retailer is going to find a buyer for its remaining locations.
Let's go live to CP24's Beatrice Faisman, who's outside the flagship location at Queen and Yonge. What are you hearing today, B?
Well, it's more, what am I wearing, Lena? I may or may not have bought a new coat on my lunch break, too. It happens. When you've got a good discount, you go for it. And there are lots of deals happening here at Hudson's Bay today. Of course, as you mentioned, we're in the flagship location. The signs are everywhere. Everything 40 to 70% off. Everything must go. Store closing. It is final sale. And there's signs thanking people for their patronage all around the store as well. It's really sad, actually. I mean, this is a kind of the death of the Canadian department store. This is a company that's been around for 355 years, since 1670, and now we know 2025, it is at the end of the era. Here's reaction from some of the shoppers I've been talking to today.
Oh, it is crazy busy, crazy, but I had to go get a sale. I was trying to get the towels, their signature towels, all sold out.
It's so depressing. So this is the only department store we have in Canada, and we shop from here all the time because they have everything, you know, from shoes, watches, shirts, everything, cookware, furniture. So we don't know what we're gonna do after that. Or I feel bad for the new generation.
Well, finally closing. Hopefully it gets dealt with. That's been owned by Americans for a while already.
That second gentleman was right. I mean, it really does have everything. People have been coming here for decades and decades, buying everything from furniture to cookware to clothing to cosmetics. And so it's a sad day. It's a sad day, especially for those workers who work at these 6 stores, the final 6 stores remaining right now that are now going to be closing. This one here on Queen Street. You've got Yorkdale and you've got Hillcrest Mall in Richmond Hill in the GTA, 3 other stores across the country. So hundreds, if not thousands, of people will be losing their jobs as part of this. Certainly remember last month, HBC filed for creditor protection, saying simply it was having financial trouble, and now it says it has no faith that it's actually going to find a buyer. So really the end of an era here in this country when it comes to shopping, especially, and Canadian businesses. Back to you.
Your new coat looks great on you, Beeb. Thanks so much.
This is not it. This is not it. You'll see it another day.
Okay. All right. You're saving it for another day. Beatrice Faisman live on Queen Street tonight. 5:55, 18 degrees. You're watching Live at 5.
And coming up, the final preparations are being made for tomorrow's funeral for Pope Francis.
Welcome back. Public viewings have ended and final preparations are now underway for tomorrow's funeral for Pope Francis.
The Vatican says that more than 250,000 people have paid their respects to Francis since Wednesday. French President Emmanuel Macron was among the last to walk through the basilica.
And Francis's coffin was sealed in a private ceremony this evening. His state funeral will be held tomorrow in St. Peter's Square, and the burial will follow in a basilica outside the Vatican's walls. 164 delegations are confirmed, including 54 heads of state and 12 reigning sovereigns.
Cardinals gathered today for discussions on both the plan for the coming days and the future of the church in the wake of the passing of Pope Francis. Well, starting next week, they'll meet every day leading up to the conclave, which will decide the next pope. And technically, any baptized man could become the next pontiff, but usually a cardinal is picked. Well, cardinals under the age of 80 are eligible to vote on the successor for Francis, meaning 135 of the current 252 will take part in the decision.
And a programming note, you can watch live coverage of Pope Francis's funeral right here on CP24 starting at 4 a.m. tomorrow morning, so stay with us.
And also be sure to stay with CP24 Monday night for results, analysis, and perspective from all across the country. Our election night coverage with Omar Sachedina and Vashi Cabellos, it starts at 7 p.m.
Yeah, it's going to be a busy and exciting night and certainly going to be a very consequential election in Canadian history. So make sure to watch and make sure to vote as well. It's 5:59, 18 degrees. You're watching Toronto's breaking news, CP24. Weather-wise, the weekend looks great, but we are in for some shower activity tomorrow. So grab those umbrellas.
Thank you for watching. CTV News at 6 is next.